this phone thing right here or something?
Mr. Stallings, can you hear us okay?
I can.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Stallings, if you don't mind, if you could just mute your mic so we don't get background audio. Thank you.
'18th, 2024, 6:30 p.m., 39 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia. If you would, please call a roll.
Jimmy Atkins.
Here.
Ben Meeks.
Here.
Alan Casper.
Here.
Ward Rowland. Here. Tim Cassell.
Here.
Brian Shields.
Here.
Kermit King.
Here.
Steve Stallings.
Here.
Mr. Stallings, if you can state your name and where you're calling in from.
Steve Stallings, Pigeon Forge.
Coleman Mayhew.
Here.
Bert Sellers.
Here. All right, thank you. If y'all would please observe a moment of silence. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, that brings us down to item 5, any additions or revisions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to add a discussion on the fire building that
Okay.
we have tabled for a couple of years now.
Okay. All right. So that would be item G under new business. That's going to be a discussion for fire building.
Do we need to note that? Vic is,
Okay.
Vic is online.
Vic is on the line?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right. Does he need to stay where he's calling from?
Yeah.
Okay. Vic, if you would, just tell us where you're calling in from.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, 1301 Deer Crest Lane, Danville, Virginia.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Vic, just to catch you up, we are reviewing the agenda, and if there's any revisions or additions, now would be the time to add that.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything to add.
All right. Any other additions or revisions to the agenda? Hearing none, I will accept a motion to add item G under new business, which would be fire billing.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, got a second by Tim. Motion by Alan Casper. Any discussion on the motion? All right, if not, call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins.
Yes.
Ben Meeks.
Yes.
Alan Casper.
Yes.
Ward Rowland. Tim Cassell.
Yes.
Brian Shields.
Yes.
Kermit King.
Yes.
Steve Stallings.
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew.
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
Okay, that motion is approved, so that item is added. So now I will entertain a motion to accept the agenda now.
Make a motion.
Okay, got a motion.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Was that you, Vice Chair? Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All right. Call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins.
Yes.
Ben Meeks.
Yes.
Alan Casper.
Yes.
Ward Rowland. Tim Cassell.
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, if y'all would please review the minutes for March. Take a few minutes to do that, and then we'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland, Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, that brings us down to item 8, presentations. Mr. Mark Bauer is here from VFIS Insurance. Come on up, sir.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see you.
Been a little while since I've seen everybody, so I already been picking on Dean, so
Uh-oh.
he's safe tonight. Okay, but I think there was some questions for me that y'all had related to different things with you're going on with your EMS and their squad, so I'll entertain anything anybody's got.
Yes, sir. So I can start that off. So, as I'm sure you've been at least briefed on, we are in the process of having to go away from the drug box system the way it is operated currently in the Commonwealth. With that, all of our 10 volunteer transport agencies and the Public Safety Department, so it's 11 total transport agencies in this county, they have to get their own controlled substance license, DEA license, have to meet regulation by the FDA, and regulation under the Board of Pharmacy and DEA. With that, though, we have to basically be our own pharmacy, house the drugs, distribute the drugs, procure the drugs, and then waste the drugs. And so with that, what we have found, somebody has to sign being liable, saying, I'm going to be what they call the power of attorney over those drugs. And then they can branch it off. I think it's 5 total people that can deal with the drugs. And then, of course, your providers that are eligible, if they have that level of training, can access the drugs, because obviously they have to have it to put on the ambulance and give the patients and whatnot. With that, we're kind of still trying to figure out what those waters look like, and I think those waters are changing every day. It's a fluid deal. But one thing we have found is we're struggling to find, especially at the volunteer stations, people that are willing to put their name on that line to say, yeah, I'll be overseeing it, just because of protection for themselves. And so we were wondering, what is the insurance that we currently have? What are you guys what do you say about what kind of protections, malpractice or whatever you want to call it, is there and afforded to those individuals that something, God forbid, does happen down the road, and then we got to figure out, obviously investigate what happened, why it happened, but that said individual, do they have protections from y'all's company?
That's the easiest question I've had all day.
Okay.
And really, first and foremost, and I'm going to branch it just a little bit, under the auto, the general liability, and the management liability, one of the really important things that I do is name everybody in the organization as an additional insured. It's not just the, Gretna Fire or whoever. It's everybody. And every member, every auxiliary member, every board member. Sorry.
You good?
Is that me? Am I doing that? Okay. Everybody's covered, all right? So if you're sued personally, then I have to provide that person with their own attorney and limits of liability as I do the organization itself.
Okay.
So that should make everybody in the whole process feel a whole lot better. Okay? And so that part's easy.
Okay.
And but keep in mind there's a second part to that, that I want to point out that I don't do, is if that person's charged criminally, then that has nothing to do with insurance.
Right.
Okay? And that is a big part of this, because when everybody gets into that, because I've been having these discussions all over the Commonwealth, because I do so much of it, and it's a big thing. So, but make sure that you can't just say, well, we lost it or whatever. You mentioned it in your comments about the investigation and paperwork and all that sort of stuff. So there's that side of it. It's not me. But anything, if somebody lets something run out of date and we give it to somebody and there's a lawsuit from a malpractice standpoint, we're in that.
Okay.
And we cover all levels, whether they're EMR, EMT advanced, paramedics, And we even provide, this could help too, is wherever y'all land with this, is don't forget that I provide coverage for the medical directors.
Okay.
Okay? They're gonna play an integral role in this whole conversation, because they're the ones that's got to write the prescriptions. Okay, so when you get into that part, we will provide them a certificate of insurance if you need to. I provide them coverage for everything that they do for you guys except for online. Now, if they're at the hospital and they're working for the hospital and the paramedics called in, that's not, they're working for them. I'm talking about helping you with protocols, stuff like this, the training. I really encourage it. We want the medical directors to be more and more involved. The more involved they can be, I even like for them to go out and run some calls.
Yeah.
If they're out running calls with you guys, I have no problem covering for that too.
So question on the medical director, is that current coverage? So
that's current.
just so you're aware, we have several different OMDs in this county that covers our volunteers and our public safety department.
If I'm not wrong, I think you have, Chris, 5 OMDs. So I think you have several.
But they have that coverage now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's part of the general liability now. And we don't just take a incidental medical malpractice form. What you have is a form that we have written ourselves, and it's a special liability endorsement. So not only we cover them for handling of patients, dispensing of drugs, we talked about handling, errors in dispatching, the whole 9 yards. It spells it out. So it's not just an incident. A lot of companies will take an incidental medical malpractice policy and try to make it fit, and we don't do that. And the other side of it, so we kind of clear out, I want to kind of change horses just a little bit. On the management liability side, to the board of directors of these organizations and stuff like that, and county and all that, we have the management liability, and you would think of it as a directors and officers type coverage. Okay, but we get into the misfeasance, malfeasance, fiduciary responsibility, HIPAA, cyber, all that sort of stuff. And it's very extensive. And again, it names everybody an additional insured, and so everybody's brought into the whole thing. So the general liability, I look at it as the operational side of the house, and I look at the management liability as being the business side of the house. So as everybody's making these decisions, we're good. So the boards don't have to worry that they,
I think that will help a lot, because that has been some of the concern. Obviously majority of these people are doing it for free, especially on these board of directors and stuff. And not that we don't have trustworthy people. The Office of CMS requires, you have a background check, all that stuff. All that stuff that we already do, we're going to keep doing. It was just that now it's even more, and what if, Joe Blow steals something off the ambulance, and obviously we report and do everything, but technically I'm stealing, example, let's say I'm over the program at Gretna. Do I have protections there that are going to say, you're covered if somebody tries to come after you for something? So.
And keep in mind too that the excess liability that you carry, it's like you would think of it as an umbrella. See, that's over the top of the general liability and management, so you have good limits. In other words, counties took good care of you there. To this whole thing, it's not an insurance question.
Okay.
The question, if I can elaborate a little bit, is it's as you said, it's a daunting task. And everybody across the Commonwealth struggling with it because it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, the DEA's going to come in and do spot checks. They're going to, all the paperwork and auditing all this stuff and everything. It's a big ask from folks.
Yeah.
So I hope that state EMS, we're kind of pushing to to give some help to that. But it's a big ask out of your people. And that's why I think the OMDs are critical in this, that you bring them into the process to what you're doing. It's a strong
Completely agree.
recommendation. But it's not an insurance question. You're good on insurance. And one more thing I wanted to say is under the contents limit is you're bringing, some of these drugs are pretty expensive. So you may want to look at, Chris, you may want to look at some of the contents limits and make sure that we carry enough, like if there's a fire, lose all that stuff too, that we got enough contents limits to take care of what we need. Dean, you can probably help me with that some too.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. That's a good, because we're going to be storing and being our own pharmacy, we're going to have a lot more money invested in drugs now.
Huge.
So,
It ain't getting no cheaper, folks.
yeah.
I mean, but you've got all the right tools in place to take care of what's in front of you. It's just up to how you all structure it.
Yep.
But I'll fit into whatever you all decide.
Well, that helps a lot, because I think Chief Fowler can take that back to the association and easing minds. I can take that back to my department itself. These conversations have been had of, hey, we don't mind continuing to do EMS. That's what we like. That's what we enjoy doing. That's what our calling is. And we're going to try to make sure we meet all these requirements so we can keep operating. But, with this inherited risk and liability, we want to make sure we're covered. So
I'm not going to leave them hanging out to dry.
Yeah.
Just, it's not going to happen. I'm going to stay in the game with them. And we have so much experience at this around the country. We can, and two, our loss control department, we have a lot of good folks there. A lot of you know Paul Mauger. Dean probably knows Paul from Chesterfield County. I have a lot of folks that if you need some help, please ask. I mean, because it's no additional, it's part of the program. It's something we offer.
So is there so from what you've seen around the Commonwealth so far, is there any changes in our coverage that you would recommend? I mean, obviously, anybody would try to sell us more, but you get what I'm saying. Is there anything that we don't already have that you think we would need for protection-wise?
No, sir. I think you're right where you need to be. And that most important, take back to your membership, is that I name them all as additional insureds. I'm not going to leave them hanging. If they're sued personally, then this day and time, they're going to sue everybody. Yeah. And they're going to start throwing them out till they get to whoever they need to. And we're not going to leave your members hanging. And that's a promise.
Appreciate that. Any other questions? While we got the gentleman here?
If I can, since...
Go ahead, take your time. We don't get a lot of visitors, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, I wear him out. He talks to me a lot more than he wants to. So, something I encourage you to take back to your members that I've noticed it's not being utilized in the county as much is the VFIS University. We have an online training program that is really good, and there's a lot of classes there, and a lot of these folks. What a lot of the firemen and rescue squad people had a complaint about it was hard to get signed up on it. I don't know if Dean's run into that or not, but so we have a lady now. If your department, say your department wants to get on there, you're going to pick a plan administrator. And that person's who we're going to work with. We're going to get them set up. Then you will give passwords to everyone, whoever you want them to. Then when that person gets on that, it all feeds back to you. If they complete it, they don't complete it, copy of their certificate and everything. And then to help you, I have a lady in Pennsylvania that's her only job is to support you in what you're doing with that program. So I've took all of that away. And VFIS has recognized that that's something that we needed to do. And,
Can you forward Chris her information? That way if we need to
yeah.
talk to her?
Yeah, and,
can
but
send it out.
any of the departments, you know, if they need any specialized help, I mean, Chris will tell you that I respond quickly to it. And people get hold of me anytime. They got my cell phone number. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning, they call me. And that's, well, I mean, we laugh about it sometimes, but let's say one of your squads gets in a meth lab and they got 2 ambulances contaminated and they're dead in the water. So, yeah, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can get a hold of somebody, get them deconned, get them back on the road, or roof gets blowed off of a building, you know. It's so, really and truly, there's a lot of people that call me at those hours of the night, so don't hesitate, because I live and breathe this. The fellow on the thing, I thought I was going to get the award for coming to Feathers today. I was in Sevierville Pigeon Forge today, but I think he tied me, so. But anything else? Chris?
One thing while we've got you here, and this is completely changing gears and we don't need to get into details, but just a yes or a no, I guess, is VFIS requiring all of our trucks in the county to have hose bed covers?
Not requiring it.
Okay, just a
It's
suggestion.
It's not a coverage thing,
Okay.
but we do recommend it, yes.
Recommend, okay.
Because we've had a lot of
Just
those
trying to
things.
clarify. Yeah, I know there's been some accidents and incidents, but just trying to clarify.
And on the crosslays too.
Okay. All right.
But please utilize our loss control people. I can't stress that enough. Don't reinvent the wheel. I've got a lot of tentacles, so use them. Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you,
and,
Mark. We appreciate you, Mr. Bauer.
And anytime you need me, you just call me.
Yes, sir. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
All right, that brings us down to hearing other citizens. We have anybody sign up?
No, sir.
All right. Item 10, Fire and Rescue Association reports, Chief Fowler.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd defer to the item when we talk about the drug boxes. That's the only stuff I have from Fire and Rescue.
Okay. All right, item 11, County Staff reports. Director Key.
Yeah, for training, we've got VDFP-funded rural water supply class coming up next weekend. I think it's full, but I just want to remind everybody about it. If they signed up, please show up. The new portable radios are being handed out at this time. If you haven't gotten with Jason Maracas, please get with him. He'll schedule a day to meet with you to get your radios exchanged out. Reminder of the JT Mini Mall grant cycle coming up. All the paperwork will be due June 1st. Also a reminder of the Community Foundation of the Dan River region. Their cycle starts June 1st and closes in July. With that, I've got one other thing. The CAD server refresh starts on May 6th at 3 a.m. in the morning. With that being said, CAD will be down for approximately 8 hours, hopefully no more than 8 hours. They'll be operating on pen and paper for that time. They will still be on the radio, but there may be a delay in getting your times and everything to you. That will be that whole week as they bring the servers up to date and get them all up and running.
Director, what's the date on that?
May 6th, starts at 3 a.m. in the morning. We tried to back it up as much as we could to the slowest part of the night, so that way less agencies would be affected.
Yeah, we'll need to make sure we bear with our dispatchers, guys, you know, during that time. That'll affect your text messages, emails, faxes.
Yes, it'll affect all of it. And like I said, it may be delays in getting it brought back up. So we'll just, during that week, we're trying to work through everything we can to get everything up and back up and running.
So just, you know, make sure you remind your members that's an important date to, you know, be patient with dispatch as much as you can.
Yes.
Director, I know there was discussion about a hazmat class. Do you know anything, update on a hazmat possibly?
It'll hopefully be end of May and June is what we're looking at. We're trying to schedule that. We haven't got everything nailed down yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Any questions for the director? All right, moves us on to unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move to 13, new business. All right, this is going to be item A, Board of Supervisors Communications, Mr. Vic Ingram. He's on the phone with us, so we'll let him take it away. You still with us, Vic?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we have you.
Yeah, I've been under the weather a little bit and then got terribly far behind. So if you bear with me, next month's meeting, I'll get us caught up on several things.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And we hope you get to feeling better, keeping you in our prayers.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All right, moves us down to item B. And obviously, Vic's been under the weather, so we'll just move on to C. Vic, you have no update with the Fire and Rescue Memorial. I would just want to make sure. Is that correct?
Well, I can say this. We sort of got off track. You and I talked about that, but we're going to put it back on track. And like I said, I'll have an update for you next our next meeting. But a lot of the bureaucratic things that you were fighting, I thought we got past that, but we hadn't. But we have now. So I'll update you next month.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
That brings us down to recruitment and retention. Vice Chair.
I talked to Mr. Casper, Commissioner Casper, and Director Key. We hadn't done anything on it again yet, none to report, but everybody's doing their studies, and the drug box right now is some of the most important things. Is everybody's time is being spent in right now.
Yeah. I will say, last month we had a good discussion about, possibly some property tax, personal property tax relief for volunteers. Like our neighboring county, Campbell County, they are moving forward from what I understand with that, but nothing's been voted and approved from their board of supervisors yet. But I talked to some of the chiefs over there, and that is something they are pushing. So whenever you guys get to meet, like I said, I'll be glad to give you what information. I asked them, could they send me some information, and they said, we don't really have anything yet in stone, so we don't want to put it out there until we get it approved. But I think that would definitely be a good recruitment tool for volunteers in our county. So, but appreciate y'all. All right, brings us down to item D, Drug Box Committee. So this is the big one. I'll just go ahead and warn y'all now. I got a lot to say. So, first I want to start off and thank everybody that participated in our first Drug Box Committee meeting. Last Wednesday, we got together at Chatham Fire Department. Chief Higgins allowed us to use their station upstairs, and we appreciate that. I will say all 10 transport agencies in the county sent a representative. Public Safety sent Casey, and I myself and Mr. Casper was there from the commission, and Chris Christensen from WVMS, West Virginia MS Council, he was able to Zoom in. He had another meeting to go to, but he was able to get on the phone and Zoom in for probably close to an hour at least with us and update us on a lot of good information. So like I said to Mr. Bowery earlier, this is a very fluid situation. It's changing almost by the day, I would say. And one thing I wanted to just kind of go over tonight was some of the basics and things we need to be prepared for here. And there's 2 motions that I'm going to ask for here. So kind of a review of how we got here. So basically, the regulation have been out since 2017. The DEA haven't quite got all their regulations out and the enforcement part of it. So we haven't been forced to go away from the the drug box exchange system we have currently. The other 49 states in the United States of America is already doing their own pharmacies, their own drug exchange system. Us in the Commonwealth is last. Obviously, I don't know how we got there. This happened, must have been years in the making of dragging our feet or whatever, but this is how we got here. But what caused such a push all of a sudden was the FDA Act. They put out a new legislation this year, the Drug Supply Chain Security Act. And this requires interoperable electronic tracking and impacts essentially the way we do our drug boxes. So that can no longer, November 27th is the drop dead date. So the FDA said November 27th is the last date you have to do drug boxes like you do them. After that, you have to have a new system. So that's how we kind of got here. And I got a whole PowerPoint on it that I could send anybody, but I wasn't going to worry about boring y'all with all the legislation. But that's how we got to where we are now. So Office EMS rolled out and said, okay, we got to make these changes. And, we are licensed agencies, so it's on us to make the changes if we want to continue running and serving. Obviously, our citizens need that service, they deserve that service, so it's our job to make sure we get it and make it happen. So the plan forward, West Virginia EMS and all the EMS councils are working closely with the Board of Pharmacy for us to get our controlled substance license. They're working with the DEA. I will tell you from that meeting, Chris Christensen updated us, they have a meeting May the 2nd to put out the final regulation from the Board of Pharmacy. That will be the kind of say-all, be-all as far as from the Board of Pharmacy. May the 13th, they're going to roll out what they call toolkits to all the super users across the Commonwealth for each agency that will have different things you can use and utilize to get your program up and running and kind of give us, I guess what you could call a recipe or a check sheet to make sure we're doing this correctly. The good part about that is Chris said on the phone, and in case if I get off or say something that's incorrect, because it's a whole lot to this, you just jump up and fix it. But he said if you have not got a controlled substance license yet, don't do anything. That's fine. If you have got a controlled substance license for Schedule 6, like some of the agencies in the county, that's fine too, but don't do anything else. They don't want us going out and buying equipment. They don't want us going out and getting licenses. They don't want us going out and really creating our final policies until the final regulation comes out. Because if you go buy something now, or you go set policy and procedure now, or you build your system now around X, Y, and Z, and then they change the play completely on May the 2nd, what you've got is no good, and they don't care. That's on you. So he said, please wait. So what my committee, and like I said, I'm very thankful. People showed up that took it serious. We had 30 to 40 people in there. We even had an agency from Campbell County come just to listen in to try to give them some help. My committee, we met for about 3 hours the other night, and they said, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll meet May 22nd. That'll give time for all this to come out so we can kind of have a concrete plan of how we move forward. Now, what Chris did recommend to our committee and to our agencies is to go ahead and be getting your rooms set up, as far as where are you going to put your drug room at, be getting quotes and stuff, because we sort of know what the requirements is going to be as far as that goes, and we discussed those in that committee meeting. But we don't want to purchase anything yet until we can get the final say-so on regulations. Now, the other part to this, the double-edged sword, is the DEA also has to finish putting out their final regulations. The problem we have with that is the DEA has not put out their regulations and they have not set a deadline. What they did tell the state, and Chris passed along to us, was that they hope to have their regulations for EMS agencies out by November, before the November presidential election. But they said clearly that if, and because this stuff takes a long time to change, if they cannot get the regulation changed before November gets here, then they will wait until the new year, because they don't make any changes during a presidential election year, pretty much from November to the end of the year, because you're kind of in that lame duck session part of it, and they don't want any party to have any say to, we did this or did that. So they said we don't put anything forward for regulation changes if it's going to happen November 1st or later. So we don't know really where we're going to fall with the DEA requirements. We do know that the MS councils, the Board of Pharmacy, all those folks are trying to work closely together to make sure we have what requirements we need. I'm just kind of going down the agenda from the other night. We discussed equipment purchases, security installations of buildings. We discussed policy to govern the new practices, our applications for the DEA license and the Board of Pharmacy license, and then we set, again, that next date. I have it's a PowerPoint here, but it's basically one slide that I'm going to enter into the minutes. I've already gave the clerk one of the documents so that you guys will get it, and I probably will see if I can get Chris to actually put it in the packet next month. I just didn't have time to do it this month, so we can bring it up and kind of review. But this is kind of the setup process, and I can't take credit from this. The public safety director from Floyd County was the one that gave me this. They've got their system pretty much set up. You know, again, they're waiting on the regulations to come out before they flip the switch. But just to give you guys kind of a flow chart of how this is going to work, we're going to set up our med storage rooms that meet the alarm system requirements, which all that, again, we'll have to refer to the Board of Pharmacy Controlled Substance Registry report. Then the next step is to complete your Virginia Board of Pharmacy CSR application. Any of the agencies that's already done an application for Schedule 6, it's the same application. Now, if you are remodeling, like I know the county's having to do, Gretna will having to do it, then you got to pay a $300 fee. If you're just going up from a 6 to a 2 through 6, you don't have to pay an additional fee. But if you're remodeling your building, or if you're a new applicant, it's $120. Is that correct, Casey? $120 if you're a new applicant. Then once you pass your Virginia Board of Pharmacy inspection, they'll do the general and security inspections. You'll complete your DEA 224 form, and we talked about that the other night, and I showed it to them, and we'll wait for our DEA number. So currently our OMDs, you know, obviously being a medical director or a medical doctor, they have their own DEA number. They have their drug number. That's how they are able to write and order prescriptions. Well, now the agency itself, because you'll be ordering drugs, the OMD will still be, you know, in conjunction writing prescriptions, but you will have your own drug license number. So we'll complete that form, and then we'll choose our vendors. And I'll tell you another good thing with the vendors. So I was very concerned because, as Mr. Bower said earlier, drugs are very expensive. Give y'all an example. I went through and priced all the drugs in the drug boxes. To stock 3 drug boxes using EMP, which has now been bought out by Boundtree, was almost just over $4,000 for three drug boxes. Now, obviously, you know, when you buy a medication, most time you can't say, well, I want 1 vial of this and 1 vial of that. You get bulk. You get 10 vials or whatever. Example, ketamine. That's an ALS drug. Very much needed, very rarely used. That drug is $786 for 10 vials off the EMP website, or what used to be the EMP website. But what we found out the other night is the state has signed a contract, and I'm not going to call the name because they haven't put it out publicly yet, but they have signed a contract for all the EMS councils for us to be able to buy off of a state contracted price with a company. Because again, numbers is power, right? Numbers is power. So with that, we're going to get a lot of reduced prices on these drugs. Example, I asked the question, how much are we looking at now for a drug box? If I had to fully stock it today, and Chris said $450, is that correct? $450 is what he said to stock your drug box, is what they're looking at now. So $4,450, you know, it's a big difference there. But again, that's what power and numbers can do. So we'll choose our vendors, and I'm going to say this. I said this at the association meeting last night. We've talked about it in the county before. I'm a firm believer if it's your money and you're spending your department's money that you raised or whatever, you have the right to buy from who you want to, what you want to, whatever. But when it comes down to, guys, we're going to have to get in one uniformed, purchasing, where we work together. We all are using the same system. We're buying from the same vendor. We're doing the same things across the board. Because if we can do it 10 agencies or 11 agencies versus 1 or 2 agencies, we're going to get cheaper prices. And so that's just, that's something I explained last night. That's something I explained to my committee. That's something I'm going to continue to say. We need to work together from public safety to the volunteer departments across the board. And I know the board members want to see that. I know that's something, continuity between us. So next was our medical vendors, including your Schedule 2s, which is your narcotics. choose a DEA registered reverse distributor, your medication waste station. Now, to update you guys on that, so we no longer the days of you're done with a med and it's a little bit left in the vial, you pull it in a syringe and you shoot it down the sink, and I shoot it down the sink and Scott watch me waste and we both sign. That is now illegal. You cannot do that. Those drugs have to be disposed of in a container that is got documentation that goes with it, an incident report number, so it can be traced back to where that medication went, how much you wasted, when you wasted it, and have a witness with it. That is something that's going to be different than what we've done, up until this point. We've always had usually people, we've always been required to have a witness to waste, but now there's more requirements, it's more steps. We are looking at it as a committee, and I know the county is as well, and Casey sent me some updates of what they're looking at. You can buy these, it's through a medical third-party company. They're basically these jugs in a box that your providers will shoot the meds in, and they'll do the correct paperwork and have the correct signatures and their witness signatures, and once a month that vendor will come and pick them up, and you'll pay a fee for that. What we did talk about in our committee is that would be great if we could somehow figure out a way to do that again countywide, using the same vendor, a container at all 4 of the public safety stations and a container at all 10 volunteer stations. The only issue with that is, obviously we could have, I guess what you could say 11 different accounts if we could just have one account, but I don't know how that's going to work with the legalities since we all have separate DEA numbers and CSR numbers. Also, back to what we were talking about earlier, whoever's name's going to be on that dotted line, they're going to have to make sure people are doing what they're supposed to. So, example, if it is the county that takes that on, we're going to have to follow their rules and regs on how we're going to do that. So, again, that's something our committee is going to be tasked to figure out what the requirements are, but that is the law is you have to waste that way. We have to pay to waste our drugs. You got to pay to buy them, then you got to pay to throw them away. And then the last thing is re-inspection. So the Virginia Board of Pharmacy will re-inspect in 1 year and then every 2 years after that. So that is the system basically, or the steps we're going to take to get compliant. In between, that's a lot of meat and potatoes, but that's kind of the quick steps that we've come up with that we're going to have to do. One thing or two things that my committee discussed, well, we discussed several things, but 2 things they've asked from this body and the association, and one of them I forgot to bring up last night, but the fee schedules. So we discussed back early in the year, if y'all remember, that we need to adjust our fee schedules at all. And we said, no, we're going to leave it alone. We think everything's going fine like it is, and we moved on. Well, fast forward to now, because we didn't know all this was coming, we need to relook at our fee schedules. Reason being is some of the people walked into that meeting thinking, oh, I can itemize bill for whatever drugs that I'm going to be using, i.e. I'm going to bill, the person's insurance or Medicare, Medicaid to try to recoup some of those costs. You can't do that. It's not legal. You can't itemize bill for those drugs. What we have to do is it's either ALS1, ALS2, or it's a BLS1, BLS2, or BLS emergency. That's how they're categorized. So, but what we can do is adjust our fee schedule to meet the requirements. So one thing that I would like to see this committee, this commission and the association and the public safety department is to reform our fee schedule committee, sit down, look at the fees, look at how much the drugs are going to cost, and that's going to take some working with this drug box committee, and then come back with a recommendation. So could I get 2 people from this body, and Chief Fowler, could you get 2 people from the association?
Yes, sir.
Could I get 2 people? I got Kermit King. I need 1 more. Guys, I'm over my head with this drug box stuff, so I won't do it. So I need a second one. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Atkins and Kermit King's going to be the 2 on that committee. And I'm going to ask if Casey will sit on it, if she doesn't mind. And if Chris wants to send Scott too, he can. But yeah, I appreciate y'all doing that. Scott, I'm sorry. Chris, do we need to put that in a motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So usually the chairman don't make a motion, but it's appropriate, I think. I'm going to make a motion that we form the fee schedule committee with Kermit King and Mr. Atkins as our two commissioners and two association members and representation from the Public Safety Department.
I'll second it.
Okay, got a second on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? All right, if not, call a roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland, Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes. All right, thank y'all. All right, the second discussion that come out of this meeting that we need action here, again, this is a formality. I've already talked to Chris, I've already talked to Casey, talked to Chief Fowler, I've talked to all the agencies' representation that was there. It's just a formality. We have to have a form, what's called a DARA form, signed by the Public Safety Director. That's basically acknowledging and giving us permission to run as a emergency response agency in this county. He already has to sign those forms for us when we do our reinspection every 2 years for our Office EMS. Well, Chris Christensen enlightened us, and this is something we didn't know, or I know at least I didn't, is these DEA licenses are $750 per agency. We have 10 agencies, and then counting public safety, 11. Now, if you are a governmental agency or body like public safety, they're exempt. They don't have to pay the $750. But since we're our own incorporated agencies, we do. But he said all you need to do is basically make a motion and get it approved that the county recognizes you all as part of the public safety system. Even though we're individual agencies, we're all part of the 911 system here that responds for fire and EMS calls. And the director can sign, draft a letter and sign saying that we are approved, and they will waive those fees. That's what they're doing in several localities across the Commonwealth. So that's something I know the association, and Chief, I forgot all about going to you. I apologize. I just thought about that. But that's what the association approved last night in their meeting. So that does come with the recommendation for us to pass that along. So I'll entertain a motion if you so see to do that.
Could you clarify what that motion needs to be? I mean, I know you said it on better form, but
Yeah.
could you?
So basically, what we are doing is we are asking the county to draft a letter and sign stating that we are accepting all of the volunteer EMS agencies under the 911 system here, the emergency response system for EMS transport, so that they may have their DEA license fees waived. I think I said that right, Chris. Does that sound?
Yeah, I just wanted you to kind of spread it out, and that way you kind of condensed it.
Yeah.
I think.
And that would be $750 per agency, roughly.
That's $750 per agency, and so that'll save each department, $750 for each department. So, public safety is already free because they're part of the municipality, but because we're technically a incorporated agency, we're separate. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
the way I see it, each organization falls under the umbrella of the county anyway. If it needs to go before legal counsel, before, the Board of Supervisors approves it, I think then that direction it needs to go in, I think it should. But the way I see it, that, each organization falls under the umbrella of the county.
Okay. It's up to you guys. If y'all are comfortable with that, and Chris, if you think that's, is that what you?
Well, I don't have no problem letting it coming back to us.
Yeah.
I just think maybe before we even send it that way, that maybe the attorney or looks at it.
Doesn't it need to be a motion so that it can get sent forward to the Board of Supervisors so they can have legal look at it and them take it up?
Yeah, I make a motion that the document be sent to the Board of Supervisors to be put before legal counsel, and then if it needs to come back to us to vote on after that, then that would be my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? I agree with that. I'm fine with that because we are in kind of uncharted waters, so we're trying to make sure we do this the right way. But
We're already under the county's insurance, so to me, I mean, it's
Yeah.
already there.
yeah. And I guess since we now
Mr.
have it
Chairman.
documented, what we can do, Mr. Tucker, come on up if you want to speak. Sorry about that.
Chairman Meeks and to this commission. Just, the window I sit and look out of and just listening and thinking through it, Mr. Shields, you are correct. It should be looked at. However, I think sending it straight to the Board of Supervisors is an unnecessary step because it's going to get bogged down and pushed back until our May meeting. I would have, just personally, I would have your public safety director send it straight to our county attorney, have him vet it, and that way we don't slow you all down. Fair enough?
That's fair.
I agree with that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
So-
Do you want to rescind your motion?
I do.
Okay, so we rescind that motion. All right, so do we need
Well, you need a motion now for,
to send it to let Chris send it to legal? Is that
that's, yeah.
okay?
I make a motion that we allow Chris to send it to the county attorney to let him look at it and then come back to us with his
And I'll
opinion.
second that.
Okay. So motion by Mr. Shields, second by Mr. Casper. Any discussion on that motion? I appreciate y'all gentlemen's patience. We're trying to figure this out. All right, can you call the roll, please?
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland, Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. So that was the two main items that our body had asked. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chief.
Go ahead.
You good?
I was just bringing your attention, Mr.
Oh, okay, okay. The other, a couple other things, and then we'll move on. One thing we did discuss, our committee is going to attempt to, and this come up last night at the association meeting, and it was good conversation. We're going to attempt, it may take us a couple months, right? It's not going to happen overnight, but we're going to try to kind of get some final, what I call final financial whatever numbers that we can present. But I will tell you, some of these agencies, guys, and really I should say all of them, but I know some of them are struggling more than others, is going to have some financial assistance in some of these purchases, procurements, and stuff like that. I'm not going to get bogged down on that tonight. We don't even have numbers to present to you, so there's no need in us getting there into that tonight. But that is some tough conversations that came up, and so be prepared. And if you're all invited. Well, I can't say that. Never mind, because we'd have to make it a public meeting. But if y'all would like to, be updated, I will continue to update you guys. And if you ever want to call me one-on-one, we can try to talk. But I'm going to try to get some of those final numbers. Hopefully next meeting, but that's probably not realistic. So maybe in a couple months, so that we can see where we stand and what we need to do financially to help some of these departments, especially some of the small departments, but really all of them, because right, they're providing an invaluable service to our citizens. Again, one thing I go back to, we have good providers in public safety, good providers in our volunteer agencies. We have good leadership across the board, and we do a good job. But one thing we're going to have to stress to our people is the importance of following these rules and regulations and making sure that we have good standing policies and that we're following those policies. Because unfortunately, this is just the way it is going forward. These are the requirements we have to meet. There's a lot of different systems out there. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going to be best for ours. I will tell you guys, the draft amendments for the code section is out for Office EMS, the 18 VAC 110-20-10. I got it here. This was sent to all the super users. So this basically is allowing us to make these changes, and it's got the requirements in here. So that's information that's out there. It's a lot of information out there, but that's what our committee's been doing, and we're going to do our best to make sure that no service gets interrupted for any of the citizens in this county. And I am done on this topic unless y'all have any questions or comments for me. Chief Fowler, I'll yield back to you. Is there anything you want to add, sir?
No, sir, I think it's covered.
Okay. Casey, did I do a pretty good job covering it? Chris, you good? We're good? Okay, all right. Mr. Tucker, do you want to speak again? Come on up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Meeks, and to the commission. I'm sure everyone's aware by now that the county administrator has resigned, so we supervisors are going to have to step up a little bit and do a little double duty here. But I wanted to just address this commission and kind of waylay some of the some of the dialogue that's happening in the back channels. We just finished up the budget. And, obviously my background is in business, and, I worked for an individual owner that had, 16 different franchises, and at the same time, some were doing great, some were struggling. But at the end of the day, Papa Bear had to prop up those that were struggling. And I want everyone in this room to understand, I have caught a lot of heat from the budget, but that's okay. I'm still standing. I typically stand on principle, and the principle is that the first responsibility of a supervisor is to make sure that we provide the safety and the protection that the county actually needs as far as the citizens are concerned. In that budget that we passed at 56 cents a hundred, and I will still say emphatically that those that are making noise, if you will, and that's all it is they're making noise, because it didn't matter what we set the tax rate at, you're not going to satisfy everyone. But at the same time, in order to move the county forward, we had to make some hard decisions. But baked into that equation was the additional support to prop up, the fire and rescue and some of those smaller agencies that are struggling, and as far as, switching over to this, this drug box thing. So I'm going to stand here and make a commitment, as long as I'm breathing, okay, those agencies will have the resources to be able to provide the services that we need for this county. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. All right. Any other discussion on the drug boxes? If not, that'll move us down to item E. This is going to be budget discussion. So basically, to kind of feed in right into what Mr. Tucker was just saying, and that wasn't planned, y'all, I promise. I just wanted to take a moment, since we now finally have an adopted budget with a tax rate. We now have, what do I do with my paper? Just bear with me for a moment, guys. I got too many papers. Did I put it back over here? That's a good chance of it. All right, so I just wanted to kind of review real quick on the fire and rescue budget. I will first start off by saying, guys, a lot of you know last year a lot of our agencies really struggled financially. They're answering more and more calls every year, and our boards, new board of supervisors and the ones that was already there, they had a really tough task in front of them of finding exactly what they felt was the right rate. I did not want to be in those guys' shoes at all, but I appreciate them, making a decision and going forward with what they did. Because I will say they heard the need for support for fire and rescue, and they were very generous to us in trying to help offset some of the, high inflation and expensive cost. So just to put it out there, they increased our fire apparatus replacement and our ambulance replacement. That was increased by $25,000 per vehicle. Obviously, the insurance increases that were required there. The base funding went up 20%. And again, to give you guys just a quick, 20% went from 26.5 to 31.8. So that's for your fire and rescue services. Training, we got an increase there. And then contracts, that was a big thing that the county had never covered, that our volunteers were just having to kind of eat. And it was required by insurance, it was required by the state. And if somebody got hurt, or God forbid a fatality happened, that's the first thing they come look at is, was your stuff maintained? And then if it wasn't, why? And just saying, well, we didn't have the money is not an answer. So that was one thing that the board of supervisors, along with this commission, the association, and the public safety director, all felt was a really big need this year to try to help out some. And they met that with this budget. We're going to do pump testing for the fire side, so your pump testing and your the SCBA compressor testing and maintenance. And then for EMS, the power load systems in the ambulances, the stretchers, the Lucas CPR devices, and the EKG monitors. And for anybody that's done fire and rescue, which most of you in this room have, or at least know what it is, all those pieces of equipment I just said are super important. They get used on every single call. If it's a fire call or EMS call, with the exception maybe of the Lucas, but it's important when it's when you need it. So all that stuff gets used on every call. So I'm very grateful that the board met the request that we asked for, and I promise the citizens that these agencies and the public safety department will use their money with good due diligence and good financial responsibility. So is there any questions or comments on the budget? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move forward. That brings us down to F, Fire and Rescue Study. I added this on there, Director Key, but from what I understand, we really haven't took off quite yet. Did you want to touch on the study?
What it is we've got to get all the back data before the company will move forward with the remaining steps. I laid a little explanation out for everyone so they could see where we're at. The meeting was kicked off February the 29th. It was able to narrow down the files to where everybody didn't have to fill in every file. So 7 files were sent to every department to fill out to get back. As of today, I've got 18 of the 26 departments information back, but we need to get those last 8 emphasized to please get that stuff turned in. I talked to 3 different ones today and made sure they're working on them. I've got to call a couple more tomorrow to try to make sure we get this up and running, because once we get to that point, then it's still 4 months before they'll get everything back to us, and we'll have the results of the study back. So.
Okay. So once they get all that information, they'll start scheduling site visits. Yes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
They want to come around and talk to every agency. So.
Chief Fowler, if you could pass along those agencies that if they're having any issues, they can give us a call.
Yeah, I've been working with them, every day when somebody calls. It's been getting there slowly, but we're getting there.
I will.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank y'all. All right, that brings us down to item G. This was the added item, guys, under fire billing. So I'm going to let Vice Chair Cameron King here bring that topic up.
Well, we talked about it a couple of years ago when one of the commissions that we had, and I think we was talking about fire billing to see what we could do to kind of offset some of the costs for the fire side. But I think we was talking about the ordinance at one time, that we didn't know whether our ordinance would let us bill or not. And it looks like to me, I remember that they said the ordinance was already there, but then we needed a billing schedule or something so we know where to start at. And I don't know, I think it just kind of got dropped from there. I don't remember any of the rest of it. Do you, Director Key, do you remember any? I don't remember.
I
Chief
think it was
Fowler?
sent to a committee, but nothing ever come back with the fire billing side of it. They only addressed the EMS side.
We don't actually have a fire billing ordinance. We have an EMS billing ordinance. We don't have a fire.
Okay. I know there was some discussion on the ordinance, but I didn't know, look, I remember, but I couldn't remember what we said, but it was some discussion on the ordinance.
So would it be appropriate, I'm just going to ask you guys, could we just add that as part of that fee schedule committee? So the ones that are going to look at the EMS fee schedule rates, could we just add that as a second part of their committee? They can bring back recommendation on the EMS rates, and then also, and since it's not established, the ordinance not even there, it may take a little bit longer, but they could get to looking into the fire billing. Is that something this commission would recommend, or whatever y'all want to do? We've already going to have that committee meeting to discuss kind of that topic, so.
That's another one of those questions I think needs to go to legal counsel and ask them how to implement an ordinance on the fire side, if that's something the commission would like to see move forward.
Okay.
I think that's probably the starting point of it.
Yeah.
Director Key, if you don't mind asking him that second question on behalf of the commission.
I mean, we started talking about it, but it just kind of dropped away, and, we need to know whether we can or whether we can't, I guess.
We pulled data from 4 different counties, rates, and what we can and can't do. It'll be the most of the information we received was the other counties or other localities do soft billing. Homeowners insurance has a clause in it to pay a certain amount for a structure fire, and there's a classification of what meets the criteria of a structure fire. Same way with motor vehicle crashes, i.e. be it hazmat involved, be it the different classifications of motor vehicle crashes, whether it's as some folks refer to as a fender bender, or it's an entrapment, and so on and so forth. It allows you to charge different rates to the insurance companies. It's not something that we're going to go out here and pull up in the yard and tell a homeowner, all right, we're here, it's going to cost this much if we're going to put this fire out. I think we need to let the public know that, because I don't want to get bombarded in the morning and they want to know if we're going to start charging when we pull up in the yard, because that's not the case.
Yeah, and I just refer that's, if you take that back, that's the same, it's the same concept, same exact principle as the EMS soft billing.
I think our billing company that we use for EMS has the capabilities of doing the fire billing for us as well. They're doing it for other localities.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
how does the forestry bill, when they get paged out to respond to calls?
So you're asking the forestry department how to,
They fall on, they have a state ordinance.
so the state, I guess, is that assuming correct, the state pays them? That's what I always thought.
Yeah, it's a state ordinance.
Because what they'll do is they'll charge the landowner, whoever the landowner is will get a bill for the state forestry department.
But they do have an ordinance for that, right?
Yes. I would assume they have to legally. I mean, I'm saying yes. To be honest, I don't know the ordinance, but I assume they would have to be able to charge.
Okay. So where are we at now? Just once Director Key gets with the legal counsel?
Yeah, so we would need a
find these
motion.
back.
Yeah, we would need a motion to send this to legal counsel as well, by way of Director Key. And if he could, try to have us an answer, if possible, by the next meeting. I think they're trying to look at the code. I'm probably getting the same text message y'all are. It's, somebody is stating that it's in the county ordinance that works for public safety.
It has to be codified is what we were told last time.
Okay.
I know we started billing for motor vehicle crashes, and it came back from the insurance companies that the county hadn't codified it. I still have a registered certified letter from the insurance.
Casey, I think it's section 1184 of the county
That's what we
ordinance.
just found, yeah.
But you're saying, Chief Fowler, that was what was told last time?
Yeah, when we sent the invoices out, some of the agencies sent invoices out billing for motor vehicle crashes with hazmat involved, and the insurance company sent back that the county hadn't codified it. That's a legal term, and I can't tell you what it means other than I still have the letter that we received back from the billing.
So I think we're on the right track still with, if we can get a motion to let Chris take it, and especially if it is in the county code, and you can explain to him what Dean just said, if Dean wants to get with him directly with that letter, maybe we can figure out some headway there.
I make a motion that Chief Key take it to legal counsel and see if the ordinance is present, and if it is, please bring it back. If it's not, see what's got to be done to get an ordinance.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, call the roll, please.
Jimmy Atkins,
Yes.
Ben Meeks,
Yes.
Alan Casper,
Yes.
Ward Rowland, Tim Cassell,
Yes.
Brian Shields,
Yes.
Kermit King,
Yes.
Steve Stallings,
Yes.
Coleman Mayhew,
Yes.
Bert Sellers.
Yes.
All right, thank y'all. That brings us down to item 14, other matters from commissioners. So we are wrapping this thing up, guys. We'll start over here with Chief Fowler tonight.
I'd just like to call your attention to the fact that in the county over the last few weeks, we've lost some valuable people to the fire service. Some folks that spent an awful lot of time and had an awful lot of dedication to agencies in this county, and keep them and their families in mind. I know right now I have a board member that's in surgery right now with a critical surgery. Keep him in the prayers, but all of the fire and rescue members across the county, both well and ill, please keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Fowler. Commissioner Casper.
I'd just like to thank our Board of Supervisors for what they've gone through with this budget process. I know it's been a nightmare, but I really think when we emerge on the other side of this, that we will be for the better. And I do. I want to thank them for the effort and the attention to this that they put into it.
Mr. Sellers.
Yes, I would like to thank Mr. Tucker for his commitment on behalf of the board to the fire and rescue ENS providers in this county. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Tucker and Mr. Whittle for being here tonight. It's always nice to get their support and have them here. It doesn't go unnoticed. And also one of our former commissioners here, who used to sit right beside of me, Jimmy Holly, has been in Baptist Hospital for 4 days, and he is in bad shape. If you have a mind to, keep him in your prayers. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Atkins.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Mr. Tucker and Mr. Whittle also for being here. Something that I was paying attention to this week is a big part of us being here is the telecommunicators for the county. They've been celebrated the last few days, and they do a great job. You know, they're the beginning of our safety part of a call. Kudos to them. Thank you.
I'll come back to you, Vice Chair. Director Key.
Just wanted to say the same thing from Jimmy. This is Telecommunicators Week, and they are the start of this process. Usually if it starts good, it ends good, and my hat's off to them and the job they do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Ward. Okay. Mr. Shields.
Yeah, I would also like to reiterate what Dean has said. We've lost some good people, and a lot of times when it's close to home, you see it, but there are also other departments that have lost some good friends, some good people that have supported them. But, to the Gammon family and to the Toller family, I am truly sorry, because they spent a lot of time, and in the volunteer departments and trying to help other departments, especially Paul working on fire trucks and stuff, his entire life. And in my notes, I do have a special thanks for National Telecommunicators Week. They do an awesome job. And to all the volunteers, to public safety, I really appreciate what you do each and every day, each and every night, all day, all night some days, but it does not go unnoticed. And last but not least, I thank the Board of Supervisors for the work that they have done, for the dedication and the prayer that they put into it. I know and I feel like that they've had the county at our hearts, and appreciate that. And for the ones that's here tonight, thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Tim Cassell.
I just want to thank everybody, this commission, all these committees that everybody's got together, just trying to get everything up and running to get these departments straight, where everybody can continue to do what they're doing. I appreciate all the support from supervisors on the budget, everything that they've done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Coleman Mayhew.
I'd just like to say thank you to all those that support us in the administrative ways. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing, and we greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go back to the phone and let Mr. Ingram, if you have some words you want to share. Did he drop? Okay. Is Mr. Stallings still with us? All right, Steve, you got anything you want to say, sir?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight and allowing me to do this by telephone. And it's still a big honor for me to be involved with this. And I'd like to thank Mr. Tucker for coming tonight and speaking, and all the work these guys did for this budget. It's really understated what they've done for us, I think. So real proud of that, and hope to see you next meeting.
Thank you, sir. All right. Vice Chair.
Oh, yes. Like I said, like what everybody said, I'd like to send condolences to the Toll and the Gammon family. And I got to work with both of these guys kind of personally several times on different calls and structure files, and Paul on records and a little bit of everything. Like I said, Mr. Holly, he used to sit beside of me. Wish him the best, and he stays in our prayers. The Board of Supervisors, thank y'all. I know you had a tough task, but thank you for remembering us and try to keep everything rolling and everything as safe as we can. Like I said, our dispatchers, I'm going to tell my age here right now. I can remember when they was in the little room that goes into the jail now. Dean, you remember too. But that's the little room that they had, and was one dispatcher in there. And now we've got so many, they still have a hard job to do. So thank them for what they do. And like I said, thank our volunteers, and all our public safety officials, and like I said, thank this commission for what they do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so I'll just take a few moments, guys. Really appreciate the work y'all do up here on the commission. It's not easy. I mean, people think we just show up for a meeting, but it's a lot of discussion and phone calls and things that goes into this. And I want to say thank you to Chris for putting all this together every month. He always has to deal with me trying to get him a last-minute email because I stay super busy, but trying to get the agenda set up. So thank you, Chris, for dealing with me and making this run smoothly. Thank you to Casey coming out the other night. She was a big help, and hope you're able to keep coming to our drug box meetings. We need all the prayer we can get, guys, on that. I want to take a moment, remember Vic Ingram in your prayers. I know he was on the phone with us. Vic's had a rough go lately and been really sick. And there's a lot of people out there hurting and sick, but I know Vic, being one of our board members and actually the individual that sits on this committee, we miss him being here, and we wish him well and hope he heals up. I think he's on the mend, but we'll be glad to see him sitting back over there talking to us. I really want to thank all of our volunteer departments and for what they do. I seen on Facebook, we had a citizen, unfortunately, their home caught on fire, and they lost, I think, just about everything, so we keep them in their prayers. But one thing I did see out of that was a good response from the volunteer agencies that was down towards the Brownsville area. And I talked to the Brownsville chief last night, and he said He was so thankful for this firefighter 1 class. He had 4 people make interior on that fire, make a pretty good, quick response, and able to save what they could. And 3 of those individuals were brand new people from the firefighter 1 class. So they, that's a testimony to our getting our young people involved, or older people, getting anybody new involved, and getting their feet wet in it, and to the instructors and the departments that are working with them. So we appreciate that. And I just, I reiterate, it's so important to try to recruit, and then you got to retain the folks. But we had a really good 2 firefighter 1 classes at the same time going on down in Blair's, and I should say up in Blair's, or whatever you want to say, and then in Gretna. So glad for those guys. And I have to give public safety a little bit of kudos. We had a fire about a month ago in Gretna, in the town of Gretna, middle of the day, low staffing, and I sent a crew up there. I was at work, obviously. I say our department did. And we had 3 people there initially, started an attack on the fire, and I think Scott showed up, it was Matt, it was David. They showed up, they threw on air packs, turnout gear, and they went up in the house and started help fight fire and do an overhaul. That is, to me, that shows the one team, one mission. We can preach it all day long, but that actually was showing it. Sometimes you got to talk your talk, and then you got to walk your walk. So I appreciate them doing that, and thank y'all for what you do. And I just want to say, we've lost a lot of good folks recently, like Dean said. Keep those families in your prayers. Those people put in a lot of hours and a lot of time volunteering in these communities of this county over the years. And lastly, I want to thank our 911 center, the dispatchers. My deputy chief was a dispatcher, and I sit and listen to him talk sometimes. And the guys there are the very first individuals that hear all of this. The worst of the worst, they're the very first people that have to hear it, and they're the ones that's the start of the process. I think back to the North Point fire, as good as Chief Fowler and his crew done, and all the ones that went, that all started because they had good dispatchers in there that knew what needed to be done and took the correct steps to save life and property. And I see Chief Fowler shaking his head, yes, and he'll tell you, he's been doing it a long time, and it all starts with that initial dispatch. So I appreciate them, and I got to give, you was talking about your age a little while ago, I still like to listen to, it's actually Coleman's father-in-law, Jesse Yates. He's 84 years old. He's been on our department over 40 years. He still runs calls, fire and rescue calls every day. And I remember him telling the stories of when his daughters, Coleman's wife is one of them, they were answering, they took turns on the weekends answering the phone and doing the dispatch for the local town of Gretna, calling in, answering the emergency phone and dispatching the ambulances. So, those kind of people are still out there and are still involved with these agencies. So I appreciate our 911 dispatchers, and I think it was a good meeting tonight, guys. So with nothing else, we'll adjourn.